continuous improvement comes in lots of different flavors and styles. I'm Bella Engelbach, and I'm inviting you to journey with me to the edges of lean. Episode 137, Jared Thatcher and the Global Lean Summit. Jared Thatcher, welcome back to the Edges of Lean.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you back. And for those of you who are longtime listeners to the podcast, you may recall that Jared was actually a guest on one of my very first episodes, and we had a wonderful conversation about using lean in family life and with kids. So I highly recommend, if you have kids or you know people with kids, that you go back and take a listen to that show, because that was it was really interesting to me, and I wish we had done it about 20 years earlier in my life.
Well, there's a lot of relevance, right, between the two.
Yeah, always. Now it's grandkids. So Jared, can you just introduce yourself to the folks who don't know you yet?
Yeah. So my name is Jared Thatcher. I have been doing lean for almost 20 years now. And I think in some ways I've always done it that I was always looking for ways to improve, to make things, better, to work smarter, not harder. And it wasn't until I started working at a manufacturing plant that really I started realizing that there was a lot of inefficiencies. There was a lot of things that just weren't working, and started developing ways of improving those things. And then a few years later, I ended up getting my MBA, and during that, I was actually introduced to the concept of what lean was. I was like, wait, that's what I was doing, back at the factory, without anybody showing me. It was just a natural way of, there's got to be a better, easier way to do what we're doing. And my first job out of getting my MBA at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland was coming back to the US, and I took a job at Daimler Trucks North America. And so at Daimler, I worked in the office, but it was about what we called continuous cost improvement, or CCI. And it was this idea of, continuously trying to find, better, cheaper, more effective and efficient, keeping the same, form, fit, and function of the parts, but increasing the quality as well, and doing that for a lower cost. So that was my job. I was hired as what they called the Mexico sourcing coordinator, and so I was working with plants from around the world and looking to move them closer to our production facilities in Mexico. And so that's where it kind of started. I was spending a lot of time in the factories. I was spending a lot of time, with engineers. I was spending a lot of time with purchasing and with our suppliers. And that first year, I think I did $6.34 million in year-over-year savings, which wasn't bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. And then purchasing said, "Hey, would you like to come join us?" And I said, "Well, wait a second. This guy over here just saved you $10 million, more than my 6.34. And yet his goal was 11 million, and you're chewing him out, and he's getting in trouble because he didn't hit his target." And it's like, nah, that doesn't sound fun. I got a big congratulations, because I didn't have a target. No, I'm not going to do that. And we switched from that to then starting to work with the major components, like the engines, the drive lines, transmissions, and the after burning fuel system. And again, we saved quite a bit of money in the terms of millions. And I ended up being brought into a program where they had worked with a McKinsey Consulting to bring lean into the office side of the environment. And that started, I think, this love affair with lean, because all these things that I had been thinking, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? It started making sense. They started providing the tools, the methodology, and really the thinking around what lean is and how it can be applied into the office. And so that's where it started. And we would do these waves every 4 months. We would move in from one process into another, one department into another, and it was pretty exciting to see. I remember the very first project I did. This team was telling us that, hey, we need 2 more people. We have to have these 2 people, and if we don't get them, we're not going to be able to deliver for the customers. We're already over capacity. They need things within, a few days or within a week. And it's taken us 3 weeks to deliver what they need. We're way over capacity. Um, and so we started doing some voice of the customer interviews. We asked some questions, and what they had told us was that the supplier was, or the people requesting, right, that they loved the information. They loved everything that they got them, but it's just they needed more people to be able to process more of these requests. And what we found out from the voice of the customer was, yes, they love the information. In fact, they gave them so much information, it was just unbelievable and fun to read. It was like, when did this part first come into existence? Who was the first supplier? Who's the current supplier? What was the original piece part price of that part? What is the current price? They all of this really cool information, none of it which was valuable to the client. And so as we were talking to the client, they said, really, we just need like these 5, 6 things. And so I went back to him. I said, hey, how long does it take to put together this report? Oh, that takes us somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half each report we have to put together. I said, how long would it take to put these 5, 6 things together? I said, no, that'd probably take like, 10 to 15 minutes. Right. From now on, you're going to do that. Oh, no, no, no. But they love our stuff. It's like, no, they think your stuff is cool, but they don't value it. So please just give them the things that they really need. And if anybody requests more, note it down and then go ahead and do the full report. But just give them the minimum viable product. Give them these 5 things. And something magical happened. Within, I think it was about 2.5 weeks, they had completely gotten rid of their backlog. They actually freed up 2 people to then start working on other things that were more valuable and important that they never had the time or the resources to do. And they were able to start sometimes within the hour getting the information back to the clients that they were expecting in like 2, 3 days, and instead of 2, 3 weeks. So yeah, and that was my introduction to lean. It's like, wow, there's an easier, better way to do this.
And, and I love that you said that like something magical happened, and I can imagine for the customers it was exciting. Okay, suddenly we're getting it much faster, and for you it was exciting. How did the folks in the office react though? Was they had to get over that hump of no, people really need this stuff? How fast was it for them to realize, yeah, life is much better for us by working in this way?
Yeah, like I said, it took about 2 weeks or so for them to kind of clear out that backlog, which they thought they had to have 2 more people they needed to hire just to keep up with the
Uh-huh.
the current requests. So for them, it was magical. It was like, this is great. We and their job became more enjoyable. So instead of doing these things where they were just looking up data and then putting it into this this format that they had created and this form that they would send out, uh, it actually was real usable minimum viable product, the things that the customers needed. And for them, it was this like revelation of, wow, hey, we were overproducing, right? We were providing them more than what they needed. And yeah, it was exciting. And then as I continued to move from team to team and group to group, we continued to do those sort of things. I started. I had a little bit of IT, background and knowledge. I ended up working with IT and learned a bunch more from there. I don't know. We did a lot of projects. In fact, I remember one time I was walking by about 6 months, a year after I had helped this one group, and this guy comes running out of the hallway, and he's like, "Oh, Jared, I haven't seen you for a long time. You got to come check out. You remember that project we did together?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You got to see what we're doing now." He goes, "Remember how it took like 3, 4 days for us to process all of these things every week, and then it was just taking so much time that we hated it. I was ready to quit. Everybody was just really frustrated with the project."
Mm.
I remember that. He goes, "Guess how long we've got it down to now?" And I'm like, "I don't know, 2 days, a day." It's like, "No, we figured out how to automate it, and so it's now down to 15 minutes every week." And it's like, that's
Wow.
brilliant. Uh,
And
and
and then you see them so happy, right? So that makes you happy and that makes your job.
I think that was where I really knew that this is what I wanted to do, because you had people, flat out telling me I was ready to quit. The job was, I enjoyed the job, I enjoy the work, but I no longer enjoyed it because I was doing these, just meaningless, you know, tasks that anybody could do. It didn't challenge me. It didn't, it wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I wanted to be fulfilled. And so, really, for the last almost 20 years now, I've been, helping, teams in the office, fix things. So from there, I ended up being hired by Slalom Consulting. And that was a great opportunity. I got to work for like Nike. I got to work for Mercy Corps. I got to work for
Ooh.
um, Standard Insurance and Portland General Electric and, a bunch of different companies, KinderCare and things where, um, again, I got to come in there and help. And it was great to see, the value that I was able to add as a management consultant going in and helping these teams. The frustration or the problem was half the time I was used as kind of staff augmentation. So I didn't feel like it was like, hey, that's great that you're doing that. We need you to do this other task. And it did not feel like I was
Mm.
consulting. I didn't feel like, they were utilizing me in the way that I could best help them. Um, we still had, good success, but it was a little frustrating at times. And
When you knew you kind of had this magic in your fingers and you weren't getting to use it.
yeah, I mean, well, I would try. Like there was a good example. So I was brought in. They just needed a project manager to handle a couple of things at this one organization. And so I go in there, and it was IT related. And so what was cool is I had just gotten certified as a certified Scrum Master. So that was great. It's like it kind of parallels lean in a lot of ways and this agile methodology. And I go in there and I realized that in order to have the project completed by the date that we needed to have it completed by, which was the end of the year, uh, we had to have the PO in about 3 days. And so, not familiar with their process, I go out and I ask, how long does it take to get a PO? And they're like, well, anywhere from about a week to, maybe three. I'm like, that's not going to work because if this gets delayed, they may take on another client. If they take on another client, they won't have the bandwidth to handle us. We won't get this project delivered when we need to have it delivered by. So I reach out to finance. I say, look, here's the situation. If we don't have this done by the time um, we're expecting it to have it done by the end of the year, we could be faced with about $1 million fine. So we have to get this done. In order to get that done, we have to have the PO to them in about 3 days. They're going to be giving me the information tomorrow. I know it's a fast turnaround. Do you think it's possible? And what can I start doing right now today to get you information that you can start working on, before we get the information from uh, the vendor that we're using? And they told me what they needed. I gave it to them. We were waiting. As soon as I got that email, I mean, 30 seconds later, I was forwarding it to finance. By the end of the day, a little less than 6 hours later, they had approved the PO. And so
Wow.
the next day, I am, and again, this is communication, right? This is the one thing that fails, I think, in most large organizations is different departments do not talk to each other. So
Right.
instead of
It's inbox to inbox, and then you wait till it comes out of the inbox.
exactly, and typically what happens is you know, you have the PMO group complaining, in IT complaining that finance never approves those POs in a timely manner, and finance thinking they're doing a great job because they're not only are they doing it for that group, but they're doing it for all these other groups, and they think that they're doing fine because they don't go out and ask, how is this delivery time?
Hmm.
And the other group doesn't complain to them; they just complain internally about that group. So you have this silo mentality. So the next day, I have the vice president of the PMO group. He comes down. He's like, Jared, what the hell did you do? And I'm like, oh crap, I'm working for this company and trouble. I forgot something. I didn't do something. Oh, what is it? I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what I did wrong. And he's going, how the heck did you go ahead and get a PO approved in less than a day? And I'm like, I asked. And he's like, what? It was like, yes, unbelievable, thought. But we got the project done. Everything worked out great. The but that's been one thing over and over I've been able to do. So after working for Salon Consulting, I did another stint with another friend of mine that had a small boutique consultancy. Um, when it rained, it was awesome. It poured, it was great. And then there was a lot of dry spells. So I
Mm,
decided I needed something a little bit more, um, you know, secure. And so I went back to corporate
yeah.
America, started working at Alaska Airlines. And I remember there was one project where I'm doing a voice of the customer with operations. These are the folks that do day of flying. And what was fascinating is they tell me that they have been asking IT for over a year. I'm sorry, over a decade for up to date information about who's actually on the flight. I'm like, wait a second, you guys are responsible for the day of flying, right? So if a flight gets postponed, if a flight gets delayed, if a flight, gets canceled, you're the ones that are doing that. And what do you mean you don't have like up to date information? They're like, yeah, what we have is about 3 to 5 days old, depending on the day of the week. I'm like, that's insane. And they're like, exactly. That's what we've been telling IT, and they still haven't gotten us the information that we need. And they said, we know it's probably out of scope, but could you help us? And I said, well, it is out of scope, but I'll think about it. So I thought about it that night. Next morning, I'm having a meeting. There's a finance guy there. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. Finance loves numbers. I mean, they eat, breathe, dream numbers. I'm like, I'll bet you they can actually tell you in real time, you know, how many seats are sold on each flight. And so I asked, I said, hey, do you have like a current count of, how many, people, how many seats are sold on a plane? I'm like, yeah, not only that, I can tell you who they are. I can tell you, if this is their first flight, if this is a pass-through flight, I can tell you, what membership, level they're at. I can tell you, all of this, really cool information. I can tell you what they paid for the seat. I can tell you, where they're sitting. I can tell you anything and everything you want to know. And it's updated, every 30 seconds. I'm like,
Wow.
that's fantastic. Can you share that with operations? So like, yeah, who needs it? Told them who needed it. Within 45 minutes of us having like a 5 minute conversation, they had what they had been asking IT to develop for them for over a decade. And about a month later, the head of operations, he comes to me and he's like, you realize this is going to save the airline close to $1 million a month, because we used to look at it and say, how there's more people on this flight and there's fewer people on this flight. So we're going to cancel the one with fewer people, not realizing that the one with fewer people, they're on a pass through, which means we're going to have to put every single one of them up overnight. Whereas those, the full flight, they're all local, which means they can go home, and we're probably not going to have to put very many of them up overnight. So, just in looking at the data, where they were looking just at the numbers of kind of what they had, now they had the information to actually make meaningful decisions. So, that's really the power of breaking down silos, talking to
Yeah.
people, and also I think the power of understanding your numbers. There are so many, like in manufacturing, people know their tack time, they know how long it takes, they know how many widgets they need to produce. They have the numbers, and they know what they need to do. They know what their quality errors are. They should, um, and yet in the office they don't. They don't know how long a task takes. I think it takes about this long. And then when they actually look at it, it's like, oh, it took 3 times what I thought it took. Um, they don't know because they've never bothered to measure it. It's just, I've got all these things to do and I have to do them. And half the time they don't even realize they have a process for those things. It's just,
Right. And
you got to figure it
and
out.
it feels like when you ask them to measure, it feels like you're asking them to do another task, and they say, I don't have time for that task. So any way that you can help them measure without it feeling like another test, like, if somebody else is actually doing that measurement, that is brilliant. I mean, that really makes a big difference. And yeah, yeah,
And it's just helping them figure, because they have the data, they have the information. It's just, how do they quantify it? How can we make it simpler? Like you said, that, especially if someone else is doing it, or if there's a report you can run. Um, there's a lot of different ways that we can help people in the office to improve. Um, and there's a lot of ways to automate. And that's the thing, especially in today's technology. Some of the things that are coming out are just absolutely phenomenal. And if done right, I don't think this is something that's going to take jobs away. It's just going to actually, if the company is smart, they're going to be able to reposition those people to do more meaningful tasks to improve customer value. And by improving customer value and by improving quality, you're going to actually, increase your brand awareness. You're going to increase, the brand quality. You're going to increase the product and have more loyal customers that are buying from you more frequently than they otherwise would have. So I think there's a way to leverage technology to make your job less mundane, less boring, less repetitive, and actually help both the company as well as the employees to prosper. Um, and a good example is I was working for a company and they had these chargebacks. So somebody decided, hey, I don't want to pay for this, and so they would just call in and say, the credit card company and say, I didn't authorize this. I didn't pay for this. The reality is they did, but the company would get this chargeback, and they would get thousands of these a day. And this one team had a high turnover rate, and they were working a ton of overtime. They were working somewhere between 10 to 12 hours a day to try to process all of these things. And they came and said, hey, can you help us just try to reduce overtime by just even a couple hours would be great, to get us back to
Mm.
balance. And so we go in, we do a process mapping event. And then I said, hey, I would like to see this, at the Gemba. I would like to see this, where it's actually happening. Have you done this task today? And they're like, actually, no, I was going to head back and do it. So we sit down and I'm like, okay, you said the first, step is this. And I'm like, yeah. And so we're going through it. And then they did something that was interesting, right? They downloaded the CSV file from, the company from these merchant services, credit card companies, and and then they printed it out. Well, they didn't tell me they printed it out, so now I'm kind of like, huh, this is interesting. Well, why'd you print it out? And they said, oh, well, because now we've got to enter this into our database. I'm like, you've got all the information as a CSV file. Why do you have to like retype it in? And like, oh, that's our process.
They were re-entering
Yes,
what was in the
they were.
CSV file?
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, okay,
goodness.
that's really interesting. I said, I think I've seen everything I need to see. By the way, do you have like a lot of errors that happen where, fat finger errors and you have like, oh yeah, all the time. In fact, sometimes it takes us up to 3 days at the end of the month to, to audit our files and find those errors and fix them. I'm like,
Rework.
I go, you guys are going to love me. So I come back about, I think it took me about 2.5 weeks to find somebody that could help automate that process of taking the CSV file, which essentially an Excel file, and then just converting it right into and entering it directly into the database. Now they had to take the information from that and then go look into another system and pull some more data out of a different system. So they would take the ticket number and then they would line that up with our other system and have to pull out some more data and do some copy paste operation there. But um, by simply taking half of their work and not having to manually type it in and just automating that, it reduced their time from, like I said, 10 to 12 hours. It reduced it down to 5 to 6 hours. Well, that actually freed up their time that they could spend an extra 3 to 2 hours going ahead and doing what they enjoyed doing, which was talking to the customer. So not only did their workload become a work-life balance and they actually were able to get things done quicker, but they got to do what they actually enjoyed doing, which is why they originally got into it. And because they were talking to the customer, which is something they never had time for before, they ended up bringing in an additional $1 million where people are like, oh, that's a mistake. That shouldn't have happened. My credit card was stolen. And so the credit card company thought everything was, a fraudulent charge. I will let the
Broad.
that
Yeah.
it's not. So they brought in an additional $1 million. They had better, happier, satisfied customers. And, they were satisfied because in fact, one person had carpal tunnel syndrome and they were getting ready to go in for, surgery. And because they weren't typing, guess what happened? Their hand
It
got
got
better
better.
and they didn't have to go to
That's great.
surgery. So, yeah, that's the power of lean. That's the power of, looking for ways to do it better.
Yeah, yeah. And Jared, it's like you have over the years and all your different experiences, you really honed that vision, right? Of being able to go in, to look, to ask the questions. And one of the things that you said when we were talking the other day that I just loved was that really a core principle of lean is teaching other people, right, to be able to see and solve those problems.
Mhm.
And I think that's actually a perfect segue to the other thing that I'd love to talk about today, which is the Lean Global Summit, which is this opportunity for a lot of people to learn and share all of those skills. So, can you give us a little bit of a history of the Lean Global Summit and what's happening this year? Which is, I said a little bit, but that's probably a long
Yeah.
conversation.
So we're calling it the Global Lean Summit, and that's a derivative of the virtual Lean Summit. So um, shortly after working for Alaska Airlines, I ended up switching over and working for a local government agency. What was great about that is for almost the last 6 years, I've gone from the private sector to the public sector, and in the course of doing that 6 months, right after I had just gotten through my probationary period, and then I think like 3 days later they did a hiring freeze, and so I just got in by the skin of my teeth and was able to get
Oh, wow.
that promotion and get everything
Yeah.
set, and then COVID hit, and one of the things I had been looking forward to was actually going to a lean conference. I've been, practicing lean for a long time, and none of the companies had paid for, going to a conference. And so here was my
Oh, my
opportunity.
goodness.
I was
Wow.
finally getting ready to go, and I was so excited, and then it just ended. And then I had this idea because I saw a lot of my friends on Facebook that had small businesses that were on the verge of bankruptcy because of the lockdowns. And what was exciting was I had something that I knew could help them, and that was lean, how to think differently about your process, how to try to adapt it to fit the need of what the customer is wanting. Remember, at the time, people were afraid to grab a door handle because they might get COVID and die. So how do you
I remember that. Yep.
yeah. How,
Yep.
how do you change the process so that maybe you have the door, propped open so they don't have to touch the door, or you install an automatic, door, or you, do something where you've got, kind of a person standing at the door to open up and invite, people in. And, there's a lot of ways that you could change your process, change the way that you were doing things to then meet the need of what the customer was expecting. And so this idea popped in my head. Why don't I go ahead and do a virtual, summit, a virtual event where we're talking about what I would do to bounce back from, the shutdowns because we were just about ready to, be released. And I was like, that is a great idea, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know anybody. I don't, I mean, I've read all these books, but I don't know any of the speakers. I don't know any of the authors. I don't know anybody. And I was like, for about a week and a half, I kept on every day. This thought would come to my head, and I would come up with like probably 10 more reasons why I couldn't do it. Didn't know how to build a website, didn't know how to do this.
Talking yourself out of it.
I was trying
Okay.
really, really hard, and none of that happened. And none of it, it wouldn't go away. So after about a week and a half of this, I'm like, okay, the idea is not going away. I need to do something about this. So
Mm.
if you don't set a date, it's not going to happen. So I said, okay, in 6 weeks, I'm going to put on this virtual event. That's really kind of a crazy thing. Somehow, in 6 weeks, I started reaching out to all these speakers that I read their books, and they all said yes. I figured out how to do some create ads and market that. I figured out how to build a website to be able to host it. I mean, I figured out all of the information that I needed in order to run this summit, and it worked. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I thought I was helping small business owners. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the majority of people that signed up and came were actually lean professionals, and so uh, it was a good event. But I'm thinking one and done, right? COVID's over, everything's fine. And then I had one of our people that signed up and was at almost every single session was Adi, and he's from Finland, and he reached out to me today, and he's like, "Hey, when's the next one?" I'm like, "Next one? What are you talking about? This is
Oh, good.
great." And then I also had a couple of the speakers. I mean, these people, I'd read their books and looked up to them, and then they started calling me, asking me for advice because during that time I had figured out how to do virtual Kaizen events, and so I was running and facilitating, sometimes one, two of these Kaizen events a week, and
And that was so hard that particularly for people who were stand-up facilitators
mhm.
to yeah. I mean I know lean professionals who were proud of not being able to use their computers, right? That was
Well,
like
and that to me was something that was actually kind of sad. So we did during that time we saw a lot of frustration, right? A lot of lean people were laid off because
hmm
they couldn't work in the factory because they weren't actually producing anything. So they were not seen as an essential worker, therefore they weren't allowed to be there. So they laid them off, which is actually when you needed the lean professionals there, kind of helping people to
yeah.
think through problems and to solve them. Um, And then the other thing that happened is you had a lot of people that flat out refused to try. Oh, you can't do it, virtually. You have to see their face. You have to, do this. You have to do that. What I found is actually doing an event virtually makes it better. I was shown when I first started, with Lean, it's like, okay, you get everybody in a room, you talk about it, you have them put sticky notes up on the board. Well, you can only have like two, maybe three people up at the board at any given time because, there's a limited.
hmm You can't see the sticky note if you're sitting at a table across the room.
That's true. And you also can't read the handwriting afterwards because you're using the big, felt tip markers. And so, they kind of all blend together. And then at the end, you're taking, so you have everything there. You're getting ready to roll it up because the next, conference room is being used by somebody else. So you have to quickly roll up everything.
hmm
Sticky note falls off. You're not quite sure where it goes. Then you come up with develop a system to number everything and take a picture of it just in case it does fall off. Then you know where it goes. Then you get there, and you have to re-enter all that information into Visio or some sort of other format to capture the process map. Now let me ask you. I never thought about this, and I don't know why, but I did not think about this. But what do we call something when you do something and then you have to do that same task over again?
Yeah. I know a word for that. It's rework.
Called rework, right? And so I'm shown a process and I follow that process religiously because that was the process that I was shown. And it never
Yeah.
once occurred to me that we're doing rework. We're teaching people to avoid rework, and yet here we are, we're doing rework. And then there's errors, there's defects. I can't read this. Hey, I'm sending this out to everyone. Who wrote this? What does it say? And
hmm
it was
It
frustrating.
fell on the floor. Where on the process map is that supposed to be? I've
Yeah. And so what I found in by doing it virtually, a couple things happen. They're typing, you get a red squiggly line. Red squiggly line says click here and spell it correctly, right? So you can make sure everything's spelled correctly. Um, the best thing, you have introverts, and the introverts in the room sometimes never speak, and they have a lot of great ideas. And in a virtual setting, all of a sudden that inhibition kind of goes away. And so what I found is not can you have one, two, maybe three people up at the board. You can have all, 15, 20 people that are at the Kaizen event putting stuff up at the same time, making comments, attaching notes, brainstorming, thinking of things. And you don't have a difference between those that are, extroverts versus introverts. They're all putting it up there because it can be anonymous and it's great. So you have bigger collaboration, better collaboration, more ideas. Everybody feels involved and heard. And at the end, all I do is I go ahead and say, okay, here's the process map they developed. I just select the area. I say save as a PDF, and guess what? I'm done. There is no rework. So I'm actually in the process of writing a book on how to do virtual Kaizen events. Even today, I'll still occasionally do. Uh, we've kind of gone back because some people like the touch and feel of the sticky notes. And at this point, I'm fine with interns going ahead and then like doing the rework piece of it. But I don't do that anymore. So if I have to do it and I don't have any interns, then
if you have an intern to
to do it,
yeah,
then fine. But again,
yeah,
waste.
yeah. If you have that intern, yeah.
But what I typically do if it's something that is just going to be me, I will go ahead and do kind of a hybrid version where we'll all get out our computers and I'll project it up on the screen and we'll start building it virtually. Um, even though we're all in the same room together.
Even if you're in the same room, I love that. I
Hmm.
love that. And that's so great for the introverts. And that's, yeah.
It really is.
And
So there's some cool things. And so what was frustrating to me is we went into lockdown on a Wednesday. On a Thursday, I had this meeting, and it was supposed to be a half day workshop that we were doing. I had to cancel it because, I was not going to share my screen and in Visio try to create this and no, no, move this
mhm.
here. Oh, no, not there, over there. My other left. It's like no. So I canceled the event, but I'm like, there's got to be a better, easier way to do it. And so I started doing some research all day Thursday, and I found something. And so on Friday, I was able to do a virtual workshop. And that's where I started realizing, wait, this actually works better, quicker. What I thought was going to take us like 2 hours, we got done in about an hour. It was like, this is great. Um, so anyway, that's kind of the, impetus of how everything got started. What ended up happening then is because these people were reaching out to me and asking, hey, how are you doing this? That got me thinking, well, maybe I should do another, virtual event. And so I did the next virtual event. And this one was a little bit bigger. We went from 21 people to I think about 68, 69 people over the course of a week. And we ran that. That was good. And then we did it again. So 21, 22, we did it. And then as I'm getting ready to do the next virtual event in 23, I had a couple of different companies come to me. So I had Costco, I had Albertsons. Albertsons is I think they've been bought out.
The groceries.
Yeah, grocery store. Safeway now, I think. But what ended up happening was they said, we're tired of virtual. If you did an in-person event, we would come to your event. I'm like, cool. So I did an in-person event,
Ooh, nice.
and I didn't want to take too big of a risk, so I just did it local. And uh, I by the end of it, I think we had 50 some people show up, but I lost a couple $1,000 putting it together. Um, which was okay. I mean, that's what I would have paid to go to a conference. So it wasn't like, I felt like I, really, went in the hole too bad. So it's a good experience. Told my wife I'm not doing that again. I'm just going to stick with virtual. And then she's like, no, that was amazing. That was the most amazing event I've ever been to. You can't stop. I said, okay, I just don't have the time and
Oh
resources
boy.
to do things. She said, well, let me help you. So my wife ends up taking over kind of the project management of running it because I've got my full-time job and then I do this on the evenings and the weekends. And what happened was she reaches out to Toyota. They said, hey, we'd love to host you for one of the days. And so next thing I know, she's saying, hey, we're going to Indiana. I'm like, Indiana. She goes, oh, well, because I reached out to Toyota and they're going to host us at their plant for a day. I was like, wow, yeah, let's do that.
Wow.
So last year we went to Indianapolis and we had our second in-person event, and we had almost 90 people there. Um, it was pretty good. And what was even better was Toyota called us up and said, "Hey, we want to show you some other things. There's this new tool that we've been using. It's called weak point management. We want to show that to you and to all of your people. Would you guys mind staying like an extra hour, hour and a half? Because there's all these other things we want to show you. We want to take you to our Obeya room. We want to, they call the adrenaline room. We want to take you to our training dojo." And I was like, oh, that'd be fantastic. And so,
Would we mind?
yeah, would
Yeah.
we mind? We're like, no, I don't think anybody would
Yeah.
mind staying an extra couple hours at Toyota.
Yeah.
And so instead of your
No.
typical, 1 hour, hour and a half tour, you're in, you're out, and that's it. We spent the entire day at Toyota, and it was amazing. And the place that we're at is Toyota Material Handling, and it's where they make forklifts. And I didn't realize they were the number one forklift producer in North America. And they even have developed technology that is anti-tip technology that doesn't exist on a lot of the other forklifts. So there's a safety element to their forklifts that don't exist on others. I mean, again, it's all about customer value. What can we do that's going to help create a better, safer product for our customer? And so it was absolutely a fabulous time. Everybody loved it. We had some amazing speakers that came from all over the world to talk to us, from Japan, from Germany, um, all over the U.S. And so it was a well attended conference. We had a bunch of people from Europe. Um, yeah, it was good. This year, we're getting ready to do it. It's going to be September 23rd through the 25th. We are doing a pre-summit day on the 22nd on Monday. But what's really cool is we already have people coming in, like at this point, literally from all over the world. So we have people coming in from New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, Switzerland, Germany, where else? I think France, UK, Japan again. So I mean, we've got a really big, um,
Very international.
very international group that's coming. And this year, my wife one upped herself again. She had invited some people from the um, the business school at Indiana University to attend our workshops, and they loved it. And they had reached out and they started talking, and so now they're a sponsor of ours. In fact, they're hosting us on their campus at Indiana University at Bloomington, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes south of the airport there. And so we're going to be on campus, and they have this really fun hotel that's connected to the largest student union hall in North America. And it's really it's a cool building. Kind of reminds me of living in Scotland with all the castles and stuff like that. It's going to be really it's a cool venue. It's a neat place. And then the medical school found out that the business school was sponsoring us, and they came in and said, "Hey, we'd love to have our students attend." And so, anyway, now we have like the business school,
Wow.
have the medical school students. We've got all of these people that are going to be coming. We're opening it up to the students to attend for free, and then we've got all of these other businesses and places coming in from all over. So we're really excited. In fact, we're almost full on the capacity that we can bring to Toyota. So that's going fast. So we've opened up another track. So while we're at Toyota, we put in a cheaper option for people to stay behind, and it's all about how to create, run, and facilitate Kaizen events. And so while part of us end up going to check out the tour at Toyota and spend the day at Toyota, those that weren't able to make that, or you know like the cheaper option, they're going to get trained on how to do a better job at facilitating and helping their customers, their clients, to go ahead and really take advantage of a kind
And
of event to
and those people on the other track, they'll still get to hear from the folks who went to Toyota, and they'll have those opportunities right at breaks and things to chat with each other and find out what happened. So
Exactly. In fact, we're most likely going to have somebody from Toyota come again and kind of speak to us a little bit during lunch that next day. So it's really a cool thing. We've got a lot of really cool people. We've got Phil Wickler. He's the Chief Transformation Officer at GE Aviation, or Aerospace rather, and they're they're they've kind of developed this management system, this management model, and they call it the flight path. And so he's going to explain what that looks like, and how they've been able to integrate that within GE Aerospace. And then we also have the CEO of City Furniture, Andrew Koenig. He's going to come, and he in college learned about lean, came back, told his uncle and his dad, "Hey, we should integrate this stuff into what we're doing." They're like, "Go away, kid. Just yeah, you don't know what you're talking about." And he kept on pushing it. He's like, "I really think this will help." And finally, they said, "Okay, go play over here. Just leave us alone." And so he starts playing, and it starts working. And they're like, "Oh, this is cool." And he continues to build it and develop it. And so for probably the last decade or so, he's been building up, and now he's the CEO, and he is really integrated lean into his entire organization. In fact, I was just there in January. I got a chance to visit his plant, and in the headquarters there are so many Obeya rooms and so many different things for each one of the from the marketing team to the the sales team to the the plant distribution team. I mean, finance team. Everybody has their Obeya room. Everybody is working on their goals and their metrics. They have the daily stand-ups. They have all this stuff, and Uh, they've really integrated it into the office, probably better than any other place I've seen. So it's really
That's inspiring. Wow.
it is. And so we've got some really good people. And I think the best thing is we're going to take, in essence, the first day is all about what are kind of the things that you have to have in order to have a successful lean organization. And so there's five elements, right? Um, there's more, but the gist is you have to have strategy deployment, kind of your Hoshin Kanri, your North Star. What are we trying to achieve? How do we align that with the customer and what their wants and needs are, and where are we going basically? And then from that, you also have the respect for people, the people development side. How are you developing your people? How are you teaching them to think a little bit differently so that they can problem solve on their own, that they can move forward? From there, you have, your workflow development, your workflow optimization. How are you really achieving this pull versus push system and single piece flow, and changing the way in which you work? So you're not batching big things, but you're actually providing what's needed, when it's needed, how it's needed. And then you have to have a problem solving mechanism, because if you don't have a way of solving problems and pulling that on cord as problems arise, which they will, then you really don't have a good system. And finally, you have to have a daily management system to be able to pull all of these pieces together and keep everybody communicated, and so that you're breaking down those silos between the different silos and the different organizations. That people are communicating, they know what you're doing, and you know what they're doing. And so we're going to talk about each one of those. We've got some great speakers coming in again from all over the world to address each one of these topics. So basically, like, this is what you need to do to have a successful organization. We've even added a healthcare track, which we're really excited about this year. That's also going to be talking about how to take those elements and put that into healthcare. And then day two, we go to Toyota. We actually see, so we learn about it. This is what we're supposed to do. Then we go see, this is how it's supposed to run. This is what it looks like. And then we have some other people come and talk about, for the first half of the day, what it is that they're doing also to implement and create this same sort of, lean vision and be successful.
Mhm.
And then the last part of the day, I'm going to run everybody through a workshop where we're going to take the learnings, kind of a Hansei or a reflection time. What are you going to take back Monday morning when you go back to work? What is that? So we're going to develop a kind of their lean management roadmap of what are they going to do? What are their next steps? Where are they having obstacles? How are they going to overcome that? And so they're going to actually go back. Everyone's going to go back with a working plan of what they're doing. And then for me, the biggest thing that's been a frustration with things, unless you take the time to do that reflection yourself, that never happens. So we're giving that time, at the very end of the work of the summit. Plus, follow up is huge. If you don't have follow up, if you don't have sustainability, it usually goes around if you're not held accountable. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a 30, 60, and 90-day virtual follow up with everybody that they can, join, or if they can't join, they can watch it later. And we'll we'll talk about the success stories that people are having by implementing the things that they learn. We're going to talk about, hey, I don't quite understand how I'm supposed to implement this in this setting, or, with this. And so it's an opportunity to continue the conversation of the learnings that you got, and to be able to continue to apply it. Because I believe, I should be running, these summits, these lean summits in a lean way, right? Everything from having, we're going to have an Obeya room at the summit where you can see, the progress. The speakers will be able to see what's working, what's not. We're going to have these conversations, a couple times a day as we're going through. And it's going to be a really cool thing where we're going to take lean, put it into practice, not only in what we're doing and how we run the summit, but also continuing to support the customer even after we're finished. So I think
So
that's a little bit different.
it's not just a conference, right? This is if somebody wants to come and learn, all right, how do I transform my organization? You're going to learn some principles. You're going to see those principles in action. You're going to have an opportunity to see other people who have applied those principles. And then you get to create a plan, and then you get some support going forward with the plan. So you should be charging, I don't know, like $5 million for each attendee.
No, no,
No,
nowhere
I'm
near.
kidding. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. But it is. It's not just a conference. It's an opportunity for organizational transformation.
Absolutely. And in fact, the other thing that I'm doing along that lines is in November, I'm going to be taking a group to Japan. And
Oh, nice.
Bill, you're absolutely welcome to come join us. But I used to live there when I was younger, speak the language. So we're going to go see some things that are a little bit atypical of your typical tour. And I don't even want to call mine a tour. It's a learning mission. So we're calling it the Japan Kaizen Learning Mission. And you're going to go and really understand why it is that Toyota does the things that Toyota does. And a lot of that is a cultural um, impacts of how they think and just the way that the Japanese are. And so we're gonna kind of deep dive into those elements. We're gonna look at a lot of cultural things while we're there. Everything from visiting some amazing, temples to participate in some really, I think, cool things. So, have you heard of kintsugi?
No.
Kintsugi, you probably know it if once I explain it, but like, a pottery, a favorite dish breaks. And instead of throwing it away, the Japanese will take that and then they will, put it back together, but inlay it with kind of gold. And so it actually becomes stronger than it was before and more valuable because of the gold. And so you take something that was broken and you make it actually better. And so that's just one of the concepts we're going to talk about. But we're actually going to go through a workshop where we are going to create our own kintsugi. And then, an element, right, is this samurai culture that they had, so how does that play on business people today? And so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go to a dojo, a kendo dojo, and we're going to actually have the opportunity to take a real katana, samurai sword, and be able to see how many bamboo mats we can cut through. And so everybody will get that opportunity to actually hold one, to learn the proper form for making a strike, and then everyone will be able to try that. So we're going to be doing some really cool things, tasting some amazing food, and having some amazing experiences on the way. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be what is it, November
That
16th through the
it's
22nd.
that sounds incredible. So, Jared, I think it's really important we tell people how to get connected. Where do they go? Website and to learn more about this.
Well, of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Jared Thatcher, Jared, Thatcher, Thatcher. And the website is I'm sorry, the website is www.globalleansummit.com. So globalleansummit.com. And
Okay.
from
Okay,
from
good.
there, you can find out more information. I'll make sure that there is a link, to the actual Japan trip that's there. I think that's / Japan mission. I think is how I have it. But yeah, it's going to be a great experience, both the Japan trip as well as the Global Lean Summit. It's coming up quick, and like I said, I think the price goes up on to full price goes up on August 15th. But
Okay.
but that said, if you're bringing a bunch of people, give us a call, send us an email, and we can definitely offer you some discounts for bringing people too. So it's going to be a great experience, and I know everybody last year just absolutely loved it. We did a lot of fun activities afterwards. We went to an ice cream parlor that was 120 years old, that's been in business for 120 years, and that was like just absolutely a lot of fun. We did a walking tour of Columbus, which is where Toyota is located, and it's also one of the architectural meccas of the United States. There some amazing people have built some amazing buildings. Just it's a lot of fun architecturally, to look at this stuff. And so we talked about how the town has done something to better the community, and how that is similar to what like Ford did in bettering the communities that he built around the plants, and what Toyota is doing with Woven City in Japan right now. So some really cool things that we're going to be talking about this year.
Wow. Well, I am going to make sure that we have this in the show notes for folks so that they can find you and connect and come to the summit and maybe even come along to Japan. So this has been really interesting, and I'm looking forward to the summit. And hope to see a lot of good friends, old friends and new friends there too. So thank you, Jared. Thank you so much for traveling with me to the edges of lean.
Appreciate it.
This is Bella Engelbeck, and I'd like to say thank you to Jared Thatcher for joining me at the Edges of Lean, and thank you for listening. What did you learn? Let us know by commenting wherever you watch or listen. You can find Jared and the Global Lean Summit on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn and at leanforhumans.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Edges of Lean. This is a Lean for Humans production.